Hello. Surprised to see me? Yeah, so am I. I want to talk to you for a few minutes about the Nexus. You know the Nexus, right? It's that plot device from Star Trek Generations that makes you miserable by allowing you to live out your most heartfelt and desirable fantasies. Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. Specifically, a theory I have in regards to what it actually is. After that, I want to talk to you about all the fun stuff that's happening on this channel and give you some updates. But first, the Nexus. So the Nexus. It's one of those little things about Star Trek that the more you think about it, the less sense that it makes. Now, I am fond of Star Trek Generations, the only bit of canon to feature the Nexus. I think it is a lovely film with a subtle but very Trek theme of dealing with mortality, specifically understanding one's own mortality as the awkward final transition of adulthood. And the Nexus fits that theme pretty well. But the execution of the idea of the Nexus is a little less than solid, we can say that. An example can be made of when Captain Picard and Captain Kirk decide to leave the Nexus at the climax of the film. They can leave the Nexus at any time they'd like, to whenever and wherever they'd like to go. So why go back to visit Dr. Soren on the mountainside and physically fight him when you could go back to an earlier moment, when it might be easier to subdue him or change the circumstances of what he's doing? If the writers had put a constraint on that ability to leave the Nexus to whenever you want, maybe the only logical constraint is that when you leave the Nexus, you can only go back to the time and place when you entered the Nexus. But then that excludes Kirk from helping Picard on the mountainside, right? Kirk would have to go back to the lower decks of the Enterprise B right before the Nexus took him. So that would sort of write Kirk right out of the film, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would. So the Nexus is problematic. But that's not why we're here. Let's discuss the powers of the Nexus. Power number 1 is that time has no meaning. Power number 2 is that your thoughts and desires shape reality. Real time has no meaning, and you can dwell in any memory or fantasy you'd like. It's like you become sort of a minor god when you enter. That's basically it. There's not a whole lot more that we know about the Nexus. You can't fly into it with a ship, and I guess you could park a ship near it and hope you get lucky and it hits you and pulls you in. The Nexus works as a plot device or a plot thing because it fits with what Picard says at the end of the movie, that time is a companion that goes along with us on the journey, reminding us to cherish every moment. Mortality gives our lives meaning, after we've wrestled with the awkward, uncomfortable fact that we have to die, each of us. In the Nexus, there's no death chasing us, so our lives have no meaning. That's why Kirk was floundering around in there. His life had no meaning without the constraint of mortality and the value that his actions were given in balance to the risks he was taking. We need mortality to shape the meaning of our lives. And that's sort of at the heart, that's sort of what Star Trek Generations is about. But let me tell you the theory, the reason why we're here. Look, what if we've got the Nexus figured out all wrong? What if it is, instead, a proto-continuum for the Q? Look, just like the Nexus, the Q continuum is a place where time has no meaning, where death has no meaning, where your thoughts and desires can literally shape your reality. Now, the Q are omnipotent, godlike, but so was Kirk when he was in the Nexus. And just like Kirk, the Q are famously bored with their powers, feeling time stretched to infinity. Without mortality, their lives lose meaning. So my theory is this, that the Nexus is a proto-continuum for the Q. Once the Q figured out how to improve themselves, they abandoned the Nexus and founded the Q continuum as it currently is in the Star Trek universe. That leaves the abandoned Nexus to sort of roam around like a lawnmower left unattended with the motor running. That's the theory anyway. It's simple and maybe easily dismissed, but it's compelling. And if I were in charge of Star Trek, that might be something I'd play with, you know. I like the idea of retroactively making the Nexus as a concept more sophisticated or more palatable or work better, you know, in sort of the way that the first season of Star Trek Picard gave extra layers of meaning to Data's death in Star Trek Nemesis. There's no reason why you can't play with that as a germ for a story idea. Now, why did the Q leave the Nexus proto-continuum? Well, like I said, they maybe figured out a way to better themselves, becoming better versions of what they were trying to become, and then they abandoned the Nexus in order to follow that path. Or it might have been something else, like a conflict. When the Q called Quinn fought for his right to end his own meaningless life, the current Q continuum fell into a civil war. They eventually concluded that war and figured out that reproducing themselves might stave off that meaningless existence. But that's just a slice of my headcanon, you know. It's something that I find interesting, and that, I don't know, man, if you want to play around in the Star Trek universe, that's an excellent place to start to play. At any rate, I encourage you to disagree. Leave some comments in the comments section telling me why I'm wrong, or why I'm right, or maybe help me build the theory out some more. So let me take a few minutes to update you on all the fun that's happening with the channel here. We've been going so long between posting videos that some of you have reached out wondering whether or not we're dead. No, still alive, although the prospect of death has given my life meaning. If you enjoy the stuff we make here and want to see more of it, and more of it at a faster rate, then please support us on Patreon. It's that simple. The more money we get in support, the more power we have to produce videos at a faster rate. You can also support the channel by just sharing the content around and telling people about it. I hear from Star Trek fans and science fiction fans on a regular basis on how they just discovered the channel. And they're like, I can't believe this exists. This is so much fun. It is. Invite them in. That's how you can also support the channel. But Patreon is the main line through which we can create more and better content. I'll give you an example. Our Mando versus Disco essay is currently being created, and it is the most sophisticated, essay, video, writing, the whole kit and caboodle that we've done so far. And the reason we're able to do that is because of the support on Patreon. For the Mando versus Disco essay, we've roped in some help from Dan and Ryan, and they've been putting in time helping to create the thing, and we hope to make that a more regular part of the channel in order to create more content at a faster rate. Coming up, we've got essay ideas about Ferengi religion, about the plethora of made-up languages, fictional languages that actually function as languages for fiction, for science fiction and fantasy, like Elvish, like Klingon. We've got a really big essay idea about the contours and the forms of the robot uprising across science fiction. Terminator, Star Trek, all of it. We've been looking forward to doing an Expanse topic, and the topic we want to focus in on is world building. The Expanse, faults and pluses aside, the Expanse has a perfect world building situation for its story. It's incredible. The texture of the belts, the belters, and the language, how they use language to shape that world, and we want to do an essay on that as well. Several other topics. The problem isn't topic creation or writing. The problem is the bottleneck of actually producing the videos. which is where Patreon comes in. I'll give you a more specific example of what we're trying to plan. After the Mando versus Disco essay, the next essay we have planned is one that attempts to fix the problem of time travel in the Star Trek multiverse. A huge, grand topic, one that we've been working on for a while, and one I think people will be pleased with. The effort to talk about time travel is not just an essay. We've also gone to some length to create a kind of poster, a great big poster depicting all the cosmology, all the different universes, all the interdimensional realms, all the beings that live in the spaces between universes, into a poster form, one that will have labels and dates. If you want to copy this thing when it's finished, I'll give you a glimpse right now of the what the finished version might look like a little bit here. If you're interested in this kind of thing, in this poster in particular, you should definitely come over to Patreon, because when we finish it completely, that'll be the first place you can get a copy. And we're also looking to produce other things as well, outside of the big polished video essays that are the hallmark of this channel. Stuff like this, where we're just talking, conversational, theory testing kind of stuff. And maybe Q&A videos, if that interests you. If it does, definitely leave a comment below and we can talk about that. That's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. The Mando versus Disco essay is coming up very soon. It's next. And go support the channel if you like what we're doing here. And remember, you're amazing.